I have in my car.
That's okay. I want to pay you. Oh, hi. Who's sponsoring?
Tennebaum sponsors Max. Yeah.
They're giving kids this week. We're home.
So, first want to thank Reb Mordechai, always willing to be able to come. We're going to try to cover every parsha. Okay? This is a show. We'll get every over a few years. Today's sponsors, remember, they sponsor the Kugel and they sponsor the broadcast. The share is not for sale. So Dr. and Mrs. Yossi and Vivian Mermelstein and Mr. and Mrs. Max and Rivki Tennebaum, nishmas, their father, Shlomo, Reb Yisroel, Tennebaum, and also by the Mermelsteins in honor of the recent birth of their grandchildren, Tehila, Yitzchak, and Esther.
We're going to also add in the for Shlomo, especially for Shlomo, for Yentele Bas Pesha.
For Shlomo.
Okay, so Pashas Vae'ra begins with, really the backdrop is already last week's Parsha. We're going to go into extensively. The discussion back and forth between Moshe Rabbeinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu of if he should be able to lead the people, take them out of Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu does not want the job, as we're going to see. And the parsha begins where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Veidaber Elikim el Moshe ve'emer elav ani Hashem." And Hashem tells Moshe, "I am Hashem." So we see over there, there's the first name is Elikim, which Rashi tells us that's Midas Hadin, and ve'emer elav ani Hashem, which is Midas Harachamim. Vae'ra el Avraham el Yitzchak bel Yaakov b'kel shakai, u'shmi Hashem le'nedati lehem. Hashem says, do you realize that there's a very big difference between you and the Avis? Every single time that, Hashem says, every time I've appeared to the Avis, it was always the Kel Shakai. Shakai, the Gemara in Chagiga tells us that the Marachis is the idea of nature, the idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anihu Sha'imer die. Hashem says, I'm the one I tell the water to start flowing. The water will keep on flowing. How long should it flow? Until I say stop. And says, if Hashem doesn't say stop, the world gets flooded.
It's called Shakai, it's not Havaya.
The Gemara says this on the word Shakai, which talks about the word die, that Hashem says to stop. Yeah. Anihu Sha'imer die. Like Dayenu, right? And the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu appeared to Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, we understand that is through the guise of Teva, through nature. For example, the famous Medrash tells us that how HaKadosh Baruch Hu appeared to Avraham Avinu at first. Well, Avraham Avinu is walking. And we spoke about this, I think, last time. Who was the builder, right? Who's the Baladir?
The house.
So when you talk about that Medrash, the idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Avraham Avinu was looking around, he says, things don't add up, something doesn't make sense here in the Teva. So if that's the case, he says there has to be a builder. So based on the nature, Avraham Avinu understands as HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With that, guys, under that understanding, HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows up to Avraham Avinu, and every one of those. That's how it works. When it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, the first time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu appears to Moshe is through a burning bush, through a sneh and an ukol. That's something that goes against nature. That's not teva. That is a completely different experience. So Vae'ra el Avraham Yitzchak bel Yaakov b'kel shakai. That's in one way. U'shmi Hashem, the idea of Havaya, the idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that they never even heard. The idea of the open nisim that are gully, open miracles, that they've never experienced with HaKadosh Baruch Hu before. It was a completely different relationship. So this is one idea, and the Sforim talk about this. Samus talks about this at length. If you go through Orged Yo on this week's parsha, he gives a beautiful understanding the differences between the world of Hashgacha Kolis and Hashgacha Pratis. There's a length on that. I've spoken about this a few different times, so we'll leave that for now. But there's many differences between the different names of Hashem. But now we want to come to another understanding of these names of Hashem. If we look back to last week's parsha, So we start looking at the conversation that Moshe Rabbeinu had with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, Vayemer Hashem roi re'isi. So first Hashem sees Moshe Rabbeinu sees him by the snap, and he says, "You see what's going on in Mitzrayim? I want you to feel that. I want you to see that. And it's time to take KEL Yisroel out of Mitzrayim." The cries are strong. They have to bring them out. Very emotional. I'm sending you to Paro, you'll take them out. So what's Moshe Rabbeinu's first response? Who am I? I should go to Paro. Right? So the first time Hashem says, I want you to be the person, he says, I'm not the man for the job. Who am I? What am I? I can't do this. Kadosh Baruch Hu says back, what do you mean? He says, I'll give you the sign. I'll make it happen. Don't worry, you can do this. He says back, they're going to say to them, they're going to say, Mashma, you talking about Hashem? Who's Hashem? It's just the first thing is Moshe himself. Now he says, KEL Yisroel won't. Hashem says, don't worry about it. My name is Eke Asher Eke. Which remember already, that was the message that was given to the Avos, Eke Asher Eke. So now Hashem says further, Moshe says, don't worry, go gather them together, you'll be matzliach. And now again, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm going to get there. Paro is not going to accept. I'll give you one ice. I'll give you a second ice. This will work. After all of that, Moshe Rabbeinu says, this is very nice, but you know what? Maybe there's somebody else. You'll send it. Let somebody else do the job. Hashem says, your mouth that you're worried about, that you don't know how to communicate, I'll make that happen. Moshe Rabbeinu says, you're right, but I'm not the person for the job. What's Hashem's response with all this? Vayicha af Hashem b'Moshe. I'm upset, angry. Vayicha af Hashem. There was a wrath, that was an infuriating wrath. It was screaming loud. As we say, he put the fear of God in him. Literally, this is what happened. Vayicha af Hashem b'Moshe. So, anyone who was a child, someone has a student, a child, whatever it is, he asks the child to do something. He says no. Ask the child a bunch, and you explained 15 different reasons why the kid could do it, and why the kid should do it, and why you need the kid to do it, and why this has to happen. And every time the kid says no, to finally get angry at the kid. It's okay, I'll do it. How much enthusiasm, how much geschmack does he, how much passion is put into it when he finally does it? We're going to talk about my kids, but I can think about myself when I was told to do things I didn't want to do. Did it begrudgingly. How is he supposed to possibly succeed in this job if it's missing? The passion is missing. It's not there. There's no way possible for him to succeed at what he's doing.
There's a difference. He was 80 years old at the time.
He's 80 years old also, right? Okay. This is really a very strong question over here that the Svarim asks. The Kotzker asks this.
The kasha on how Hashem responded.
The response of anger is not going to accomplish what you needed to accomplish. Something's wrong over here. Something is missing in the story over here. But let's check the Kotzker. This is the Kotzker's kasha.
Did the Rebbeinu Shalom expect Moshe to just say yes and go do it? Without
Each time, every time.
Every time, no, he's allowed to have one objection. He had a legitimate concern. No, if you're giving me a job.
Are you happy with your children objecting even once?
I haven't had it.
No, let's talk about the Eibishter.
Right.
Let's talk about the Eibishter. The experience. It's not that he asked him, then afterwards he says, "You're not sure who I am." Poof, he appeared to him in a burning bush. It's not what happened. First, HaKadosh Baruch Hu appeared to him. And after that revelation, at that point now, he says, okay, now here's the big ask. At that point, he says no, but he did. He says, I can't talk, right? So he still says no. After all that, Hashem gets angry, says, fine, I'll do it. What are the chances that he's going to succeed? That's the kasha of the Kotzker. If you look in the Shir Shel Yom, so Teves Yaakov Yosef, beautiful, beautiful comments from Teves Yaakov Yosef before we get to the idea of the Kotzker. Put the two of them together. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that we say every year in Dalit. We say it, and we also say it. Part of it we'll say Lal Shabbos. KEL Nekomos Hashem. KEL Nekomos Efiyah. Hashem is a God of vengeance, or he takes revenge. KEL Nekomos Hashem. And just in case you're not sure about that, David Melch repeats saying, KEL Nekomos Hashem is Hashem of vengeance. Efiyah. That's how he appears to us. Now, the Shir Shel Yom, the experience of the Shir Shel Yom in the Beis Hamikdash was what? It's the most beautiful thing. You had 100, 120 people, Levim, singing at the same time, together with all the music that was going on. It was an incredible opera experience, not to be compared to anything in the world today. It's a philharmonic experience. There's nothing compared. That capital of Tehillim finishes with the words, L'chunu anu Hashem. Right? L'chunu anu Hashem, which, sidebar, in parentheses, we say, that's Yom Daled. Why? Because that's already when we start working towards Shabbos. The half week is gone. We start working Wednesday, we start working towards Shabbos. L'chunu anu Hashem. So we're going to sing. What are we singing? What are we singing out loud? Picture the scene. I was just zeichet to be in Yerushalayim. I was driving in Me'asharim. And I saw one of these station wagon vans with speakers on it. There were these nanach guys on top. They were singing and dancing. Everybody stopped, and the van was going up and down, up and down. They were singing. Imagine the song. KEL Nekomos Hashem, KEL Nekomos Efiyah.
$5 a liter.
Yeah, exactly. KEL Nekomos Hashem, KEL Nekomos Efiyah. That's the song that they're singing with excitement. L'chunu anu Hashem. It doesn't begin to make sense. Something's wrong. The first kasha. The second big question over here, the second big pircha on this pasuk is that if we talk about vengeance, so first of all, okay, I get your point. You want to say Hashem has vengeance. You want to even repeat it? No problem. But let's think something else. How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu Vae'ra? How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu appear up until Moshe Rabbeinu? Our parsha begins. Vayedaber Elokim el Moshe, vayemer elav ani Hashem. So there's a switch between Elokim and the same Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. What's the difference? Elokim is midas hadin, possibly kas. Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's Rachamim. KEL is the world of Chesed. Different names. If I'm talking about Nekama, something off over here. KEL Nekomos, KEL is Chesed. Is Chesed and Nekama? I'll do you a favor. I'll give you only one patch, right? I'll do you a favor. I'll give you a patch. I guess you learn your lesson. There's other favors I can think of, right? So first of all, KEL means Chesed. How does that stem? How does that jive together with the world of Nekama? KEL Nekomos Elokim, I understand. KEL Nekomos Hashem in the Shirachim. And just in case you're not sure, so first of all, the names of Hashem don't fit in with the pasuk here. Second of all, why is he repeated a second time? KEL Nekomos Hashem, KEL Nekomos Efiyah. What's going on? So Teves Yaakov Yosef, the Pashas boy, says, Shemati Mimari, he heard this from the Baal Shem HaKadosh. The following idea.
Who's wrote that?
Teves Yaakov Yosef.
Yeah.
It's Yaakov Yosef Panoah. He was one of the early Talmidim of the Baal Shem, and you can see from his form that he wrote that, between the Landis and the Chasidus and the Halacha, like from all different levels. And then he wrote a sefer on mitzvahs too. It wasn't just a regular pickup on the street. This was a big neshama that the Baal Shem Tov brought over. So he says, "Venerally, the Shamati Memori Pirush HaPasik, KEL Nekomos Hashem, KEL Nekomos Yefir." So before we go into this, let's say over a Ma'aseh little Baal Shem. Baal Shem Tov says over, a mashal from the Baal Shem. There was a big magician, a big musician, and he was playing tremendous music in the city square, town square. Music has a tremendous koyach, power on a person's neshama. Before you know, people were swaying to the music, and they were dancing. It was like a hype in a situation where everybody was rocking. The place was on fire. One person walks in there. He starts yelling, "Abanda Michigan, you people are crazy. You're swaying back and forth. What are you doing?" So everybody is singing and dancing, and this guy thinks they're crazy. What's missing from the story? He says about Shanta, the guy was deaf. The guy couldn't hear. So he sees a bunch of people going back and forth, doesn't know what they're doing. Imagine Lahavdil, right? From the old days of watching the shows without the sound. Right? You're trying to figure out what was happening. You find the sound, the sound is a completely different thing, right? But over here, he sees crazy people. The pshat is because he thought of one thing without understanding what was going on. He was missing an integral piece of information. So the Toldos Yaakov Yosef says as follows. He gives one mashal, he gives another mashal. Another time, one mashal is that a person can do a favor for someone else in life. We do favors. Not always do we tell the others that we did them a favor. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes we hope they find out, but we don't always tell them that a favor was done. So imagine a scenario where we put our life on the line for someone else, never told them about it. We're there for all their simchas, and sometimes it hurts to see how they can even stab us in the back because they don't know what we've done for them. Now imagine if we tell them, by the way, this is what we did for you. At some point, it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks, where they're going to say, this is what you did for me, and I acted that way to you. It's a shocking revelation. Something it hurts. It doesn't make sense. So he says a mashal of a regular person who did something terrible to the king, and instead of killing him, the king gave him a position and kept on hiring and raising him up. And every time he raised him higher, the person said to himself, it hurt him so badly. He says, but I know what I did to the king. It hurt him terribly. Says the Baal Shem Tov, incredibly. KEL Nekomos Hashem. He says, how does Hashem do Nekama? You know what he does? KEL Nekomos. You know how he does Nekama? Chayfiyah. He appears in your life. He lets you know that all along he was your number one fan. He lets you know that he loved you every step of the way. And every time we raised the hand, Kaviyachol against the Kadosh Baruch Hu, he was right there with Ahava towards us. We thought one way. We didn't realize that there was KEL, there was Chesed, and there was Chesed and Rachman all along. We thought one thing, but really it was something else. B'chora af Hashem b'chem. We say it in the middle of Shema. So I'm supposed to go ahead. Yeah, I did something wrong. Fine. So b'chora af Hashem b'chem is not going to be any parnasa. Everything's going to fall apart. So you're scaring me. Scare tactics. Very nice. Appreciate that. Scare tactics. How am I supposed to love Hashem that does that to me? He explains that. So now we come back to the Katzker. We have this idea of how does Hashem take Nekama? By showing us that He loves us and showing us that He's a part of our life. Gets us to look at things from His perspective. Says the Katzker, Vayichar af Hashem b'Moshe. In Cheder they taught us, in boys' school, in elementary school, whatever it is they taught us, and Hashem's wrath was on Moshe. Because a beis means on. But a beis also means in. Another beis can mean in. It's a prefix that means in. Let's read the pasuk differently. And he says, things get lost in translation. He says, I don't blame anybody, but Read it differently. Train yourself to read things differently. Vayichar af Hashem b'Moshe. Hashem says, you know what? I asked you once, I asked you twice, I asked you 3 times, 4 times, do the job. If you're not willing to do the job, you know why? Because you're not feeling what I'm feeling. You're missing some of the experience. You're missing some of the passion that Kadosh Baruch Hu was feeling. Hashem was angry at Mitzrayim at that moment, and Moshe wasn't feeling it. So that's why Moshe said no. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the pasuk, Vayichar af Hashem b'Moshe. Hashem took his af, he took his anger, and he instilled it in Moshe. Now, he says, Moshe, feel my passion, feel my fury. And if you can do that, you'll be able to do the job the way it's supposed to be done. You don't have a mouthpiece that works properly. When you'll figure it out, you know why? Because when you have that passion and your lathe is talking the way it's supposed to, you're alive, you're out loud, and everybody understands you. I'll tell you 2 stories. One story is famous Ma'aseh with Chofetz Chaim, where they went and they made a gezerah on the Shechita in Poland. And Chofetz Chaim said, we have to send a delegation to fight it. Okay. Delegation got together, they went to the government to fight it. The translator didn't show up. Translator supposedly didn't show up. They came back empty-handed. So Chofetz Chaim asked them what happened. So they said the translator wasn't there, so we went back home. And we lost. So Chofetz Chaim said, did anybody faint? No, why was someone faint? He said back, as emetzivel gechalisht, the first time. So if somebody would have fainted, they would have got the message right away. You didn't have to need it. You didn't need a translator. They know the story. The story that's dear to my heart. Sklener Rebbe, all the Sklener Rebbe. Famous, there was a situation where Scoop Jackson, who was a senator from Washington, he helped out the Sklener Rebbe. What was the case? What was the story? In Romania, they took 10 Yidden, and they had decided that they were Russian spies, and they were going to hang them. 10 Jews in Romania were going to get hanged because they were accused of being spies for Russia.
Was it the 70s?
This is the late 60s, early 70s, yeah. So this is so basically what happened was these Russian Yidden living in Romania, they were going to get killed. They tried everything, they couldn't get them saved. Anything about Romania, anything about KEL was close to the Rebbe's heart, especially Romania. That's where he came from. So he calls up a Rav in Washington, Seattle. Rabbi Landinsky was the Rav's name. He had a close shaykhus to the Senator Scoop Jackson. Calls up, he says, I need you to get me an appointment to see the senator in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. The time difference, this is not happening. He says, you're saying it's not happening without even trying? Like a Yid makes a shtabus and Hashem does the rest, right? Okay, one phone call. Makes a phone call. He says, it's not even him. There's someone else he has to call. We'll make the phone call. That person's traveling now. It's not going to happen. The senator's not going to happen. He says, try it. And then you'll tell me it didn't work. Sure enough, he tries, and of course he gets the appointment. First thing in the morning, the Rebbe says, by the way, I need you to come to be there with me for this. He says, I'm in Seattle, it's not happening. He says, try it. Sure enough, he was able to be there first thing in the morning. The Rebbe took the train with his Gabe to Washington, D.C. He shows up. They get the appointment, they come in. As they're walking in, the Rebbe whispers to his Gabe something. The Gabe's face changes colors. And the Rebbe says, he's Zug. He says, go and tell him what happened. The Rebbe says, well, I didn't finish davening yet. I need to borrow the senator's office to be able to daven. And I don't know if anyone here ever experienced a tefillah with the Sklener Rebbe. With any of the Sklener Rebbes, this is, Ben Achaven is how it works over it. They don't daven slowly. They don't daven quickly, or they don't daven slowly, they daven even slower than that, right? So the senator says, sure, no problem. Luckily, he was just finishing his davening, he needed 20 minutes over there. The Rebbe comes out, everyone's pacing back and forth, waiting. The Rebbe comes out, says he can come in. The senator walks in, he sits down. The Rebbe looks at him, and the Rebbe opens his mouth to talk. No words come out. He starts crying. Everyone's waiting. Waiting. The senator says, I understand exactly what you need. Tell me what you want me to do. The Rebbe says to him in Yiddish, says, I want it to stop immediately. And the senator doesn't speak Yiddish. He talks back and forth then. Because once the heart was there, the passion was there, the emotions were there, there was nothing, there was no mechitzas anymore. The mechitza was gone. The Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I need Moshe Rabbeinu to feel what I'm feeling. And v'chora Hashem b'chem, when we say Shema, like the idea of schar v'einish, what does that mean? It doesn't mean Hashem gets angry at us. V'chora Hashem b'chem. Hashem says, you didn't have Vae'ra. Why? Because you, meaning everybody, we don't understand what Hashem feels when we're throwing dirt upstairs. Hashem says, I want you to feel what I'm going through when you're doing an Vae'ra. V'chora Hashem b'chem, in you. So coming back over here to our parsha, so we see this idea. There was a very different relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Moshe Rabbeinu. The way he brought him in to feel everything was completely different than what Avram Avinu, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, what they felt. Obviously, that was one. Moshe Rabbeinu was a brand new existence. In one way. The Hashem over here is the love, the rachamim, the chesed. That part they never saw. Sure, Avraham Avinu felt a connection, a different type of connection. The love they never felt, and this is something that Moshe Rabbeinu has to take with him to the highest level. That's why he's Moshe Rabbeinu. Go ahead.
Beautiful. And that's why the whole emotional lead up that you started with. Parsha starts with that emotion.
Yeah.
And because we're trying to impart the
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I forgot to turn on my recording, so
I got it.
got it.
Yeah, I got it here. Don't worry.
Yasha Claire. Really
So 1 second. Avram didn't feel it because they never contradicted the Rebbeinu Shalom.
it's not that they never contradicted. It was his own hakara.
It was Avram's Ankara.
It was Avram's hakara. It started by Avram, not the other way around. Right?
If I remember now, I call him the shul now. And stuff for us.
Shmi Hashem, so the Shem of Vae'ra, they never understood.
They never even knew that revelation of Hashem. It was their entire revelation of God's birth was through Teves. Elohim is Hateva, right?
Right.
That was the entire. So Shem Havai was never known to them.
Okay.
That's this pasuk right here.
Right.
Shmi Hashem and
So what insight did he have that they didn't have? What's the Shem Havai? What would that do to them internally? So Avram doesn't know. What did Avram Avinu miss? What did Moshe? So Moshe Rabbeinu had a deeper understanding of the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what you're saying. Because you know Elohim and Havaya. You knew them through much more than Avram Avinu.
Avram Avinu's
Had a recognition, but you're saying was all from himself.
through the world of Teva. Everything was through Teva. What he came to on his own car. And we can go through the Orgadal Yo, but his whole entire idea over there is that, again, it's based on the Swasamas, that everything up until that point.
Figured that was together.
Very nice. So, very nice. Thank you. So that whole entire revelation was based on flawless. Flawless means how Hashem runs the world, but that's a macro level.
Shlomo, we're going to finish our conversation. Okay.
That's a macro level. On a micro level, there was no involvement. Now, what's the difference?
Then he's just talking about.
A person can tap into the world of a micro relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the Rambam. Right? Kafi Pulas, the way a person goes ahead and interacts with Hashem, Hashem interacts with you. Hashem,
Bring him more into your life, bring him
right.
down.
And then there's the Baal Shem Tov, Hashem Tzili, right? Hashem is the Tzeh, is the shadow.
Dama Mala is
It's Mimcha, that's Nefesh Chaim, and that's also all time. So all of those ideas, that's already us pulling strings, saying Hashem, bring us
That's a
close.
Moshe Rabbeinu.
No, Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem says to him, we are gonna have a relationship and it's gonna start with Hashgacha Pratis. It's gonna start with Hashgacha Pratis.
So why did Moshe have this like passion? Why did he punish him? It says before Hashem heard from Moshe, but then
No punishment.
no, after he said Aaron's going to be the Kohen Gadol. Right?
Okay, so that's not, it's not a punishment.
It's not supposed to be a punishment taking away the Kuna.
No, I don't think so. Oh,
That's why
maybe.
I was laughing.
Could be. Because